I don't think I'm a particularly good photographer, but I put a shitload of time into it. And time is the key factor, I think, with this game. Got to be in it to win it, Josh. Got to be in it to win it.
On the streets of London today with photographer Matt Stuart. Matt's been a photographer for over 20 years. He's published several books, including Think Like a Street Photographer, and now the 3rd edition of All That Life Can Afford. Let's go.
I don't know, I must be some sort of, I don't know what I am. I'm an addict, but I love coming to London because it's so much more busy. And I feel really, really, really at ease here. I mean, I've done it so long that I kind of have no worries. We don't have many worries anywhere, but one of my slight anxieties in the Netherlands is that I don't speak the language very well. I'm going to LA on Tuesday, and I find that very exciting. I'm doing a project there called Sunrise on Sunset.
Nice.
Having to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and see who's left out from the night before.
Yeah.
And that's fun. And then I'm flying to New York, and I mean, is New York good for street pictures? Maybe.
I don't know if I've seen any from New York.
No, there's not many people doing it there anymore. But I have another project there. I have one picture there that I really, really want to get, and it's a sunrise picture as well. So I know that I'll be getting up early to take that. And it's not a picture with people in, it's sort of more of a landscape that I'll use a medium format camera with. So I'm into sort of chopping and changing equipment as well to keep my interest peaked, you know?
That's how I use gear. Something like a new lens or, I don't know, sometimes it helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, gets you out there.
What's with the sudden interest in sunrises? Sunsets?
Just in LA, sunrise is the best light. Yeah. It's better than sunset. And you know, most photographers get up and, you know, go and have a coffee and then go and take pictures as the sun comes down. But I think if a few more photographers actually set their alarm and got up early, they'd see that sunrise shits all over sunset.
I never got the deal with golden hour. I'm like, I don't like everything looking orange. Why do you want that?
Well, you know, the amazing thing with sunrise is you also get the bird song.
Yeah.
And excuse me. And that's something in itself, I think. So I used to live near St Paul's Cathedral, and one of my small pleasures was going to the Rose Garden and smelling all the different colours. I think that's what we're going to do now.
Okay.
You know, look at the guy next door. I said, look on Google, from Naples to Pompeii, it's 30 euros. But I'm not going to pay you more than that.
Peachy.
I'll give you 45.
Oh, pink. Yellow's not working.
Oh,
Let's go for this one.
off today.
No, the best one was the pink.
5 stars.
Camera, 500 to the second always. Don't really go past that, technically.
That is quite nice.
Early morning picture. But something happened, which is good.
Oh, I reckon they're like that, but not very often.
I love that thing. It's like a really
It's
elaborate shoehorn.
What is it?
I don't know. It's got to be to do with horses.
Shoehorn.
It's got to be to do with horses. Do you know what the collective noun for a group of photographers is?
No, Matt, I don't know.
Well, it begins with a C.
Right.
And I know what you're thinking, Josh, but it's actually a click.
Ah, this guy. Matt Stuart.
Josh Edgoose.
You're in London for Photo London?
For Photo London, I was asked to do a talk at Somerset House on Friday night, But I also like coming here because I get to see old friends. I really liked the Anonymous Project work, and I also really liked the remastered Helen Levitt photographs at Thomas Sanders Gallery, which were exquisite, but nothing new, but remastered and looked great.
Had you seen them before?
I've never seen them look that good.
Okay. Nice.
They were great.
Cool.
Really, really beautifully done. They rescanned 5,000 transparencies because they were literally falling apart. And then they had a look at about 2,000, they printed about 120, all of which Helen had selected as goers. And yeah, it was just really beautiful to see them brought back to life.
I actually want to talk to you today about All That Life Can Afford, version 3.
Yes. Yes. Return of the All That Life Can Afford.
I think I saw on your Instagram that partly there's like, it's so desirable that the prices have rocketed up, and you thought,
Yeah.
let's actually publish it again so people can have their hands on it if they want to.
Yeah, and bring the prices down.
Yeah.
I think the key thing with, well, you don't make much money with photography books, full stop. But I don't like the idea of, booksellers selling a book that essentially cost £35 originally for £200 to £300 to £400. Doesn't sit well with me, and to be absolutely honest, I don't make any money out of that.
No. Well.
So yeah, All That Life Can Afford, it's been really remarkably successful. I'm very happy, but I don't like the idea of it going for megabucks, and so re-releasing it, especially with my good friend Tom, who redesigned the second book.
Tom Booth Woodger,
really talented, charming young man. Nice bloke.
He's just a nice guy.
He really is a nice guy. So very happy to have him and his new company distribute the book and print the book and get the book back out there and make it a reasonable price. And I actually think that this edition is the best edition.
That's convenient.
But I think that with every edition.
And you've added some new work in there as well?
A couple, taken out a couple, put in a couple. I get obsessed by the sequencing. It's sequenced on top of each other, so it's only facing page images, but the picture that you're looking at sort of transfers its heat down to the following photograph.
Right.
And I kind of got obsessed by doing that during COVID because there was fuck all else to do. And wow, look at this rust.
That is rusty.
Nothing like a bit of rust.
You know, I've heard that said. How do you measure the heat of a photograph?
I don't know, Josh. How do you measure the heat of a photograph? Oh, it's not a joke. No. Oh, Jesus Christ. You measure the heat of the photograph, especially if you're sequencing with the weather. And the book is sequenced by the weather.
Okay.
But also the shape of the photograph before can translate to the following photograph if you have enough time on your hands. And that's what I really like about the sequencing.
You enjoy the sequencing?
I enjoy it, yes. I don't think I'm particularly good at it, but if I put enough time into it, I think I can end up with a good sequence. I also think that's very much the same with photography, you know. And I don't think I'm a particularly good photographer, but I put a shitload of time into it. And time is the key factor, I think, with this game. Got to be in it to win it, Josh. Got to be in it to win it. I have to say, you know, with that book, it's sequenced by the weather, and it's also sequenced by the shapes of various things in pictures. You know, for instance, there's a bag blowing in the wind, and then the next picture is a lady's hair blowing all over her face, and then the next picture is a flag that's bent over, and then the next picture is the man with the sort of poster man looking down on the women with the umbrellas, and hit the top of the poster is sort of looping over as well. So there's some shape conjunctions, but they're not as obvious as when you do diptychs. And diptychs for me are extremely boring and patronizing because mostly photographers buy photo books. They're very visually literate, and I think to ram it down a photographer's throat is patronising. I'm just going to photograph this for Richard Wentworth. It's like a come and have a look. It's like a sandwich. It's like a bacon sarnie. Probably not a keeper, but
Nah. Looks tasty.
bit overcooked. Bit overcooked. So yes, all that life can afford.
Did you have the book in your mind when you initially set out to take the pictures, or was it just kind of incidental off the back of a few years, or maybe like 5 years in where you're like, I've got a book here, keep going?
You know what? I've realised recently that what I used to do is just go out the house and hope, which is all very well, but you don't get much stuff done unless you start adding a few constraints. So had I come up with that idea at the beginning, I'd have probably done the book far quicker. But the book is just a bunch of pictures made in London. And so it's location and time dependent, this book. And the time took 12 years to take 50 pictures. If I had been a little bit more generous with my constraints, I would have come up with an idea like sunrise on sunset and probably have it done within the year.
Yeah.
So parts of all that life can afford, when I look at it, I kind of think to myself, bloody hell, what a waste of time. I should have given myself a few more projects, not just gone out of the door and hoped. But hey, you live and learn. What's 12 years?
Do you think, I've been taking street photos for maybe a decade-ish, and it seems to have like exploded in popularity. That's how it perceives to me. I don't know if that's just, I don't know, maybe being cynical. I don't know. What do you think? Has that been your experience? It just seems to be getting more and more popular. And
yes.
How do you feel about that?
It's popular at the moment. I think, everyone has the idea that they can buy a camera pretty cheaply nowadays and, put their foot out the door and experience stuff. And they can. And absolutely, on paper, it's easy. But as we all know, once you start getting into it, it becomes more and more difficult. And I think Paul Graham has this amazing essay, which I can never remember the name of. It is something like photography is easy, photography is hard. And I totally agree with that. I think there's lots of people out there that take photographs in the street, but there's not many people who are that good at it. So we are a little bit saturated with a bunch of bad photographs, but that's okay. I think the main thing is as long as people enjoy it, then crack on. I'm joking most of the time. You realise that, Josh?
No, I can cut some of that out if you want me to. Or...
No, it's okay. You can say that as long as you say I'm joking most of the time. You realise that, Josh? I'm joking. Right, we're here. Good. Bank. So I used to come here every morning to bank. I used to live in the Barbican, very, very strange place.
You lived in the Barbican?
I lived in the Barbican.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yep. I was very lucky.
And then my dad paid everyone, because I kept getting upset, my dad walked up after I like the chance, and he literally said, sort it out. He shook his hand and was literally like, sounds like Christ, you can try and sort it out. And he was like, yeah,
Looks like they're pedestrianising it. Rather exciting.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. That will completely change the whole dynamic of this area if this is going to become a pedestrianised area.
Weekday morning, it's going to be very busy.
It's going to be great for pictures.
Yeah.
Wonderful, clean background. Look at that. Yeah, so I do miss London a little bit. It's constantly changing. My son, when he was younger, he said something very profound to me, which I always giggle at. We were walking past, some of this shit, and I said, they're building, Max. They're doing buildings, and he said, I know, they're building all the time. When do you think they're going to finish? When's London going to be finished?
Oh.
And I said, Max, I don't think London will ever be finished.
And then you both stared into space.
Yes, and cried. This is silly, isn't it, as well?
And obviously, you guys we're in between.
Yeah, it's uglier than what's behind it.
Yes.
So what's
All right, so let's go this way and we find a nice quiet spot.
Yeah. This whole day is going to be finding a quiet spot.
Yeah,
A quiet
Well-
place 3.
this will be quiet, I think. That's a really claustrophobic street, isn't it? Look at that.
It's pretty.
I think the old and the new is very apparent here as well. You get almost sort of Victorian London, you know, the Jack the Ripper stuff down here, and then above it is 1970s crapola. But actually, I'm kind of enjoying the 1970s crapola a lot more these days. It's the glass shit I don't really like.
No.
It just seems lazy. It's like, you know,
I like watching videos about how they were built.
yeah, look
more
at that,
interesting.
though, Josh. Isn't that amazing, that?
They call it a curtain of glass.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Let me just take a little iPhone picture for you. That is incredible.
So you do a lot of teaching about street photography. You
Yes.
run workshops.
Yes, that I enjoy immensely.
Yeah. Like meeting people wanting to get into street photography, meeting people with like a sort of like maybe like a fresh interest in it. Do you find that quite motivating?
Yes, it regenerates my love for it, and I also enjoy teaching adults. I'm not so keen on teaching kids because in a lot of cases kids are sort of forced to be there and they might not actually be that interested. However, with the adults, they're all interested.
Yeah.
And I really get excited by it, and I try and do the very best I can and give them as much information as possible. And I always go away feeling sort of filled up, you know what I mean? I feel energized by it. So it's well, you know, I'm the lucky one because I get paid, but I also get topped up with, you know, enthusiasm and fresh eyes on the whole thing, which makes me very happy.
You have to pick them.
That's nay a bad shot.
I think the horse is hilarious. I'm hoping look, it's actually quite a good still life.
What's your favourite conspiracy theory?
Favorite conspiracy theory? The Cartier-Bresson puddle jump was a setup.
Oh.
And it, you know, the funny thing about it though, I don't think it would matter even if it was.
No. Yeah.
Man jumping over puddle. Man jumping over puddle. Man jumping over puddle. I believe it's a real picture now. So All That Life Can Afford came out in 2016, and that book got me into Magnum. That was basically without that I would not have got into Magnum. I showed 50 pictures and managed to be voted in by one vote, and was told by Mark Power and Martin Parr that I probably wasn't going to go much further than that because the other half were never going to vote for me. So I had a couple of years that was very enjoyable and quite stressful, worked really hard, and then didn't get through, which is one of the best things that's ever happened to me because I did not like the pressure.
Do you think taking photos in London has got harder since you initially took those photos?
No, I think I have probably got slower. When I did take those pictures, I used to be really, really fast. And I'm a little bit slower now, and I put that down to drink and drugs.
Walking around with you, you move very quickly. I'm out of breath.
I do move very
You
quickly.
move very quickly.
I'm quite hyper, but that was why everything had to be on a 500th of a second. I sort of have a lot of nervous energy. But yeah, I've got slower, but I still see the pictures here, and I still think it's a great city for street photography.
So, casting your mind back to actually shooting those photos, what was your routine?
I would get up, often really quite early, I would come into the City of London at 6 a.m. to get the rush hour, get the beautiful light if it was doing a sunny day type of thing. I would shoot until 9 o'clock, so 6 a.m. till 9 a.m. Then I'd get some breakfast, have a coffee. Then I would get the tube into Oxford Street. I'd go to Oxford Street, go to the photographer's gallery, go into the bookshop, make sure nothing had changed in the bookshop from the day before. I did that for about 10 years. And then I'd shoot Oxford Street, New Bond Street, maybe venture up to Selfridges, back to New Bond Street, down Piccadilly, into Soho, another coffee, Oxford Street, sometimes venture up Tottenham Court Road. Quite difficult for some reason, Tottenham Court Road. Never got anything great on Tottenham Court Road. And then maybe pop back into the city, shoot Liverpool Street, rush hour, or shoot rush hour, Oxford Street. The main thing that I did was I would always make that loop. And it's interesting, speaking to lots of fellow photographers like Aaron Berger, they all kind of loop, Tavapong loops, just loop, find the spot and just go round it, go round it, go round it, go round it. You know that there's people there, you know that the light's good, and you kind of stick to it. And I think it's something to do with OCD, you know, it must be obsessive compulsive disorder. And that's what I would do. I would just loop. And yeah, I never, and quite frankly, if I hadn't moved, I probably wouldn't have stopped. When I was growing up, I was given a BMX bike when I was about 7. And I remember going to the park, which was a circular park, and it had a circular path around the park. And there was a little like bump on the tarmac on this path. And every time I went over that little bump, I would try and do a little bunny hop. And you could kind of leave me doing that all day. I just would not stop. It was like like one of those Duracell rabbits. And I've always been like that. So skateboarding, repeat, 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 repeat. BMXing, repeat, 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 repeat. Photography, repeat, 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 repeat.
I get the vibe that if you didn't have to sleep, you would just keep going.
I don't sleep very well, and but if I'm feeling switched on, I pretty much photograph constantly. I photograph constantly throughout the day, and I can shoot, a ridiculous amount of bad pictures.
You seem to have this your optimism and attitude really shines through in your photos. Even like some photos that could maybe be a little bit sad always seem a little bit hopeful. Do you ever take a photo that is maybe just a bit too sad? And you're like, that's a good photo, but it's not me.
Well, no, I do take sad photos. Often, I'm sort of clumped into this. He takes witty pictures pot, but I'm very happy, very optimistic. But when I'm not very happy and very optimistic, I'm extremely sad. And so, photography definitely helps me get through that. It gets me up and out and does my workout, my physical workout, which is really beneficial. 20,000 steps a day for me is absolutely essential. The days that I have that red line on my stepometer are the days that are very, very unhappy. So I take happy pictures, I take sad pictures. I guess I'm 90% happy.
That's good.
So there's 10% sad.
Put a little graph on the screen for that. Pie chart.
Yes. I was speaking to Richard Wentworth the other day, and he was talking about, I don't know if you know his work, but I'll send you some. And he was talking about balancing a glass on the edge of the table precariously. I thought that was quite beautiful, so that his kids would find it balanced precariously and tell him off. And I don't know why I'm saying that, but it sort of resonated with me that there's that to do with sort of hope and disaster.
You're in town for Photo London.
I'm in town. I was in town to do a talk at Photo London, which went really, really well. It was about Reclaim the Street. And I invited my friend Johnny Pitts to come along, and anyone who does not know his work should definitely look into it, but almost as much hear him talk. He's a brilliant, brilliant speaker, very intelligent, a photographic memory, and a real enthusiast as well. So I was delighted by his input, and Yeah, I learnt a lot. I learnt a lot from the talk.
I reached out to our Patreon, our Discord, and said, does anybody have a question for Matt? Becky Stacey said, so excited for this one, exclamation mark, sparkly emoji. It's really great to see how much Matt supports women street photographers. My question is, why does he think it's such a male-dominated field?
Really good question. I think men like gear,
Yes.
and that's a little bit sad, isn't it?
It is a bit
I think whenever I do workshops, the best students are generally female, and I don't know why. Maybe they're less preoccupied with the gear. I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. But I think to answer the question, I really don't know why there are not more women street photographers. Maybe it's maybe it's a sort of a testosterone-y thing for some blokes to go out and, you know, wave something around in people's faces. I really don't know. But like I said, I think some of the very best street photographers are women.
The gear thing's weird. Like, it's not just photography, it's like any,
Yeah, I mean, golf clubs.
yeah.
Jeez Louise. I really don't know why men are so fixated with gear. I mean, it's Photo London at the moment. I've had more middle-aged, generally white men come up to me and talk to me about their lenses than anything else.
What's the best lens?
The one that's on your camera.
Mic drop. Lloyd asks, Matt was the person who made me realise that street photography was a thing, despite me subconsciously snapping away on the streets for years. How did Matt discover street photography?
Matt discovered street photography by being in a dead-end job, working at a customer service centre, answering customer complaints. And Matt's generous father went to the Tate Modern and bought a photo poche on Robert Frank and an aperture monograph on Henri Cartier-Bresson, and gave me them just on the off chance that I might like them. What he didn't know is that he'd given me the Beatles and the Rolling Stones all in one go, and I answered customer complaints while flicking through these two books for about a year. And it got to the point where I told him, Dad, I'm going to quit this job and I'm going to become a photographer. And he told me, well, you can be a very good, amateur photographer, and it could be your hobby, but being a professional photographer is really difficult. Are you sure you want to do this? And I said, absolutely, I want to do this. And 30 years later, here I am, doing it. Well, I also got, one of the great things about that job, which was a shit job, is that I learned how to deal with angry people. And angry people, screaming and shouting at me down the phone. I would take about 100 calls a day. And I got so good at speaking to angry people that I had a 0 not ready time. So it basically meant that I could listen to people shouting and screaming at me all day and sort them out and send them on their merry way, feeling happy, without pressing the button that said not ready. And I sort of became a champion customer complaints answerer. But it took its toll, but I've actually used that skill on the street, because I can diffuse situations really quickly. With body language, and also just with how you speak to people, and with how you interact or not. And I've found that that job was actually really great to have in my pocket for this type of work.
You don't really get into that many altercations, do you?
I get into no altercations at all,
no.
ever. I absolutely, I've, without sounding weird and wonderful, but I've mastered the feint,
Yeah.
and the poker face, and I generally can spot trouble a mile off, and tend to avoid it because I can't be bothered, because it generally ruins your day. And I think it just comes with experience, and with the amount of time out on the street, you end up gauging what's worth it and what's not.
Beautiful smile too. You've been shooting in the States. I've found I've only really ever been shouted at in the States. That's bad luck on my part.
No, that's bad luck on your part.
Yeah,
I think all you need to do is open your mouth in the States and speak a plummy English accent, and they are And then they're putty in your hands.
Sorry, darling.
I'm a Cockney, don't you know?
I just sound like Mark Corrigan from Peep Show.
You do a bit.
Yeah, I know.
You do.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Out here. And then I did about a year's worth of martial arts, which was also really, really handy. Not because I ever needed it, because again, it taught you how to the body language type of thing. Sorry, slightly distracted there.
No.
The body language, and for instance, if you ever get in really big trouble on the street, you know the best thing you can do? Have I told you
Cry?
this? No. Yeah. If you ever get in really big trouble on the street, you do this. You go, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And the reason being is you're keeping them at arm's length with this hand. You never want to be doing this really, because that's
that's
that
aggressive.
just keeps people away, and it's very peaceful, and it's very religious, and all that kind of stuff. Tends to work a treat.
I feel like we're seeing like Matt Stuart photographs today. I don't know what's happening.
Constantly worried that you're going to get knocked over.
Me? Nah, I'm all right. I've been outside before.
Once or twice.
Once or twice. It's great. I should try more often.
So let's have some more questions from the community.
Hold on.
Come on, Josh.
Fucking hell. Richard Jones. Ooh, nice. I've ordered the new book. I can't wait to receive it. My question would be, what is one thing Matt could tell his younger self when he started street photography? And we'll answer that when we're out of this townhouse.
Okay, younger self would give he would arrange more constraints around what he's doing. He would have a beginning and an end to the project. The younger Matt just went out, hopefully trying to take pictures, but I think the older Matt would tell the younger Matt that constraints are very useful, and for instance, having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects going at the same time. So when you got bored of one, you just take up the next one. And when you get bored of that one, you just take up the next one. It can take a long time, start and finish some things. So I would give myself a project here, a project there, a project abroad, a small project, a project that will finish in 10 days, a project that will finish in 6 months, a project that will finish in 10 years. I'd give myself some constraints, because you get stuff done. Young Matt just emptied out the house, went into the street and hoped, and he did that for 12 years. And it would have been good for him to have had some other things going on, spinning a few more plates. One of the things I'm doing at the moment, I'm actually photographing a lady who walks her cat on a lead, and she takes the cat into a bush. And I saw this lady in the bush. It's a black cat, so I couldn't actually see the cat. And I took a picture of her, and it's actually here. I can show you the picture. This is the picture. So I saw this lady in the bush, and I said, "What on earth are you doing?" And she said, "I'm walking my cat." And I said, "Why are you walking a cat?" And she said, "Well, my last cat got run over. So I put this cat on a lead, and we go and have a little walk in the bush every day." I said, "That's fantastic. Would you mind if I photographed you over the next year or so when you're in the bush?" She said, "No, that's absolutely fine." She said, "I'll check with my husband, make sure that's okay with him, meeting up with a photographer in a bush." And I said, "Yeah, I'll make sure I check that with my wife as well." And so now she sends me a black cat emoji on WhatsApp whenever she's in the bush, and we meet up and I take pictures. A silly, kind of crazy project, but it's just something to do. And I think young Matt could have done with a few more of those.
Perfect.
Oh, no.
Dan Lebrun asks if you have any interesting stories behind any of the pictures in All That Life Can Afford.
I have quite a few interesting stories. I mean, there's the one about the dog, but that's sort of told many times. But
What about
the
the dog?
picture of the dog in the car.
Oh yeah.
You know the story behind that?
I've heard it said but I can't remember it.
Well, I was extremely drunk the night before. I woke up and was so hungover that I needed to get some Alka-Seltzer. So I went to the chemist that was very near my house, and on the off chance I picked up my camera, stuck it in my pocket, but did not expect to see any pictures that day. It was raining. I got to the traffic lights and a convertible car with the roof down pulled up at the traffic lights, and what looked like a Great Dane was behind the steering wheel. I reached for my camera, took 2 or 3 frames, thought I was still drunk, went to the pharmacy, went home, probably was sick, and anyway, got the film developed, and lo and behold, there's this dog that looks like it's driving a convertible in the rain. And the picture was published in The Guardian. I had a portfolio in The Guardian I was very happy with, and I got a phone call from the owners of the dog. And that's one of your sort of, you know, street photography fears, you know, that someone's going to sue you or someone's going to be upset. But they weren't upset. They actually asked if I could send them a print of the dog, because Joe, the dog, had died.
Oh no.
And so I said, obviously no way. You got to buy this print. Fuck off.
Yeah.
No, I sent them a print. The dog is always going to be alive in that picture.
Yes.
Oh, watch out. Thank you, sir.
If you've missed out on the first 2 editions of All That Life Can Afford, pick up a copy at Blue Coat Press. Or if you already have the first 2 and you want to complete the set,
do that.
Do that.
that thing.
I'm going to do that. I've got the first 2.
I'm doing another series of work in the Netherlands called Nothing from Nowhere, which is really about a little bit about the sort of depression I have in the Netherlands. I sort of drive places and really try to see pictures and try to find pictures because it's a lot quieter. So Nothing from Nowhere is as much about me.
Just hang out here for a minute, it's going to get quite loud in a minute.
Much about me being not much and the place being not much. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but slightly different type of picture, standing back, enjoying making those photographs on a medium format camera. And then Italy, I'm photographing in Italy a lot. I like Rome in particular. And then of course there's The Lady in the Bush. So that's what I'm up to. I've got 4 or 5 things going along, and I'll just quickly take this one and then I'll be buggering off.
Thank you.
Ja, aber auch eine Dauer.